Violet Winds, Rarity, A True Love by Swedish Dub. A few months ago, Violet Winds moved into Ponyville from Manhattan. Violet Winds has been a musician for a number of years. He wanted to travel, and he traveled around in Equestria for 3 years until he settled down in Ponyville. At first, he had no problem to get any new friends. Since he met Pinkie Pie, she made a party just for him to celebrate his new arrival in Ponyville. And he had much no trouble to find so much new friends among musicians, other musicians that are in Ponyville. Two of his best friends in Ponyville are Octavia and Vinyl. He often plays with Vinyl, even he doesn't much play that kind of music, but it took a little bit of time to adjust to that kind of catchy songs or music. But after a while, he actually stand up to be a part-time DJ at Ponyville so as a backup for if Vinyl was unable to play for it. But one day, when he was in town, he saw the most beautiful mare of all time, and that was his friend Rarity. Ever since he moved to Ponyville, he has been a much crush on Rarity. He knew that Rarity was single, but she has been dating a few stallions over the next few years. But most of those dates only lasted for a couple of times. But he was actually looking for her special son pony. But what Violet Winds didn't know at first that Spike, Twilight's #1 assistant, also had a big crush on Rarity. But when he found out, and when he told Spike that he also had a much big crush on Rarity, Spike, he was more than shocked. "Well, I was in love with her first, so get in line," said Spike. He tried to make it sound tough and brave. "Oh, are you that tough, huh? Well, I don't think she will mind. I think she prefer a stallion rather than a dragon, a baby dragon," said Violet Winds, just to sound tough and a little bit cocky. But this ended up in rivalry between them. Spike often tried to ask Rarity out, but Violet Winds were always there and sabotaged his attempts. It included the same thing with Spike on Violet Winds. And after they had sabotaged each other for almost like 3 weeks, they finally gave up. They decided fighting over a beautiful mare was not worth it. Even Violet Winds was willing to give up his feelings for Rarity. Even Spike had maybe a better chance on her since she had known Spike for a number of years. He even said that to Spike. "Spike, it is better we put all this fighting and rival between us for a chance with Rarity. I can't just compete for her beauty and her love. It's not right." But Spike didn't believe at first what he said. He thought that this was some sort of plan or some sort of a plan for making to lay his guard down so he can steal Rarity from him. "Are you even trying to make this as a lie or some sort of trick?" Violet Winds? No, Spike, not this time. I'm honestly giving up my chance to get with her. I know that she was only known me for a few weeks, a couple of months at most, but she had known you for a number of years. So I know that I don't have any better chance at her at all. So I decided to stop my affections on her, said Violet Winds. Spike didn't know first if he would even believe at him, but he could see that Violet Winds was seriously on that topic. Are you really that serious? Said Spike. Yes, I am. Oh well, give you hoof. And the shake, and then Violet Winds walked away. He felt heartbroken. At first he didn't know if he was going to find his special sun pony, and for the next couple of days he didn't speak to Spike or Rarity or much to any of his friends. In fact, he was most at his own home. He was planning to move back to Manhattan. When Rarity found out from Spike that Violet Winds loved her, and after he told him himself about his feelings for her, and of course Rarity was flattered about Spike's feelings for her and even Violet Winds' feelings. But when Spike said that Violet Winds are planning to move back to Manhattan, that broke her heart, because in the secret she had been in love with Violet Winds, because he has been so kind to her over the next few months that she had known him. He actually been at her assistant for a couple of weeks at her shop. But at first until now, Rarity found out about his true feelings for her, and he was willing to give up his feelings for her so that Spike would have a better chance with her. But Violet Winds hadn't even decided to move yet, or wait a couple of days or a couple of weeks. But he had decided to move back home. But when? He didn't exactly decide when, but he had decided to move back. It went another number of days when Rarity went up to Violet Wind's home, knocked on the door, and he opened. He was surprised to see Rarity there. Then he thought that maybe she was going to ask him if she could help her at her boutique once again. But in fact, rather than that, she asked if she could walk in so they could talk for a moment. And he said, "Yeah, absolutely, welcome in." Rarity then told Violet Winds to direct what she had learned from Spike, and Violet Winds felt guilty, but also heartbroken. Rarity, please, I understand if you don't like me back, but I know that Spike maybe had a better chance on you than me. Please, said Rarity. No. You see, Spike is more like a brother to me, and even I know that he has been in love with me for a number of years, but it would never work between us. Even he's a baby dragon or he's a dragon, but I love him as a brother, nothing more. It would never work. And I love you, Violet Winds. Wait, Are you serious, Rarity? And she just smiled and nodded. And just then, she walked up to him and kissed him over and over. She was more surprised that he actually loved her back when he grabbed her in a hug and kissed her a passionate way. And even then, Violet Winds asked her out on a date. And surprised enough, they went out the same evening to a local restaurant. And Violet Winds had now decided not to move back home. So he wrote back to his parents about that, and that the reason why he's staying back in Ponyville, that he had found his special soul pony, and that he loves her so much, and is willing to stay as long as it lasts. And for the next couple of months, Rarity and Violet Winds often went out for a walk together in town. How was Spike and Violet Winds' relationship as friends afterwards when he found out that Violet Winds and Rarity were dating? Well, at first Spike didn't want to talk to Violet Winds at all, because he was afraid that Spike was going to hurt him or even use his fire-breathing ability to burn him, but he didn't. In fact, Spike had moved on, and instead of being dating Rarity, Sweetie Belle had asked Spike out, and since at the same time, Spike had been dating Sweetie Belle, and they much now are a strong couple. They're almost in the same age, well, mostly, but they still love each other, and Rarity was just happy that Spike had found his special song pony, and that her sister also is happy. But for most part of their lives together, Rarity often worked long times, long hours, even they often said that they weren't going to meet. But Violet Winds didn't mind if Rarity worked much longer at her boutique, just because she had many orders of new designs to deliver in either the catalog or Manhattan. But he still loves her so much. And Violet Wind's feelings for Rarity was so much stronger, and even they had been dating for at least 6 months. They decided to move not to travel to Manhattan so they could meet his parents, so they could probably possibly meet his girlfriend for the first time. They only had heard about her mentioned in his letters back and forth, but they never met her in person. But now they did. Both Rarity and Violet Winds were a bit nervous if his parents would even accept her, or they would reject her, telling him to find another mare, or never come home, or they will abandon their son as family. But their fear turned into more happiness, because in fact, Rarity was much more accepted when they both noticed it. But during the same time, when they were in Manhattan, Violet Winds brought her to a local restaurant where they had this romantic dinner. But then, Violet Winds walked up to her and went down on a knee and showed her a ring. He asked her if she would like to marry him, and she didn't need at least another not a second to think for an answer. She said yes over and over, and she started to cry. And every pony in the restaurant, including staff and the guests, started to cheering for them both. And this was the most happiest moment in their life. They went straight back to Violet Wind's home and told his parents about this proposal, and his mother, she was more excited and overjoyed of this news. And the news about to her family, the Rarity's family, well, same thing for her mother, and her father, strong enough. And when they moved back home to Ponyville, they told their parents and the friends about this. How did they react? Well, everyone was excited, but mostly Pinky. She was so overreacted. She was very hyperactive of excitement of this. She wanted to start a party to celebrate it, which she did, and they decided to be married in Ponyville within the next 3 months. And on their wedding day, well, Spike has been asked to be Violet Winds' best man, and even Discord was asked to be the ring bearer, which he did accept. And Fluttershy became Rarity's bridesmaid, and they had even asked Twilight to perform the ceremony. Well, she actually accepted, and it was a big, big party afterwards, and it lasted for almost an entire afternoon, at almost the sundown when they left the party to went on their honeymoon to Crystal Empire for the next 2 weeks. And they had the most romantic time together in Crystal Empire. And just barely 3 years after their wedding, Rarity found out that she was pregnant and was going to have a daughter. When she told Violet Winds about it, the only he said was, "Are you going to be a mother?" And when she said no, she nodded. He fainted, and he was unconscious for almost 2 hours before he wake up and trying to process this news that he's going to be a father. But he was still excited, and even he fainted a second time. But he was more happy to be a father. And when the daughter was right, it was more than happiest day in their entire life together. And they named her Violet Strings. And Violet Strings, well, she was a little unusual daughter they had, because already as a filly, she was much talented in magic, like her mother. She used her magic to fly with her father, which her mother didn't want to allow her to do. But in fact, Violet Winds, he always was nearby to protect, just to make sure that she was safe. And when she was about 10, she had mastered the spell to allow her to levitate in air and even move back and forward with her help from her mother and her aunt, Starlight Glimmer. But Violet Strings also loved to help her mother at her boutique by sewing dresses, skirts, all kinds of designs that she did. Because since sewing was her strongest passion as a filly, she wanted to be a fashion designer like her mother. And when she was old enough, well, she became a fashion designer in Canterlot. And she moved there when she was about 23 years old. And at one point of her life there, she married up a stallion who also was a fashion designer, and they had at least 3 daughters and 1 son together. And that's how, when Rarity and Violet Winds found their true love and got a family. The end.